Hey, yo, Pro Wrestling Podcast listeners, welcome to the show where we don't sing it, we bring it. Help us out and click subscribe to show your support. Make sure you follow us on our Discord community and be sure to stop by www.tsj101sports.com. The official podcast of TSJ Sports is the Pro Wrestling Podcast, but you got to check out TSJ Sports. Everything you can ask for in the world of professional baseball, football, basketball, college sports, pro wrestling, you name it, TSJ Sports has what you need. Check them out today. Guys, are you sick and tired of dropping $60 to $100 for the latest and greatest wrestling game every single year and nothing really changes? Heck, this year we had all kinds of issues with the newest version of the video game. Well, stop doing it. Right now, go to Facebook and sign up for an account with Wrestler Unstoppable. In that game, it's totally free and you can get contracts, storylines, pay-per-views, build a corporation all your own, included for free in Wrestler Unstoppable. It's right now available to all Facebook users. Check it out. If you want to become a member of the Pro Wrestling Podcast family, you want your name in the shoutouts like our buddy Mike in Lansdale, then make sure you pop over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/Pro Wrestling Podcast and sign up today. We have loyalty rewards. A $15 contribution gets you to co-host an episode with me of one of our live shows, and a $7.50 a month contribution would get you into a drawing to also co-host an episode of one of our shows. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this episode of the Pro Wrestling Podcast. We've been away for a little while. The holidays hit. It's been crazy, but we're back tonight with all sorts of news, tidbits, and things to talk about in the world of professional wrestling. If you're new to the Pro Wrestling Podcast, make sure you check out our homepage, frowrestling.com. It's a great way to preview the topics coming to the show. And hey, if you come up with questions, you come up with comments, something you'd like us to talk about, I would encourage you, either use the chat function in whatever service you're using right now to stream the show and give us questions and comments there, or call into the Pro Wrestling Sound Off line at 267-642-1160. Give us your feedback, whatever you'd like us to talk about, and we will try to get to your questions and comments in a future show. Make sure you let us know who you are. We love to give credit to the people who contribute to the show and who give us questions. We want to get your name out there as well, so make sure you tell us who you are when you send us your questions. First topic to discuss tonight, Brock Lesnar, and what are they going to do with him at WrestleMania? So there's two trains of thought right now. One is that you have the return match between Brock Lesnar and Cain Velasquez. I'm sorry, I think after the first match was such a dud, I don't need to see this match again. I'm all for Cain Velasquez in WWE. I think he needs to get the knee taken care of and then come back when he can really compete. But I don't think the Brock Lesnar thing needs to be revisited. I really don't. They had Brock go over so convincingly. I don't think there's a need to do the same match over again. Let's face it, Brock used to be so well versed in so many different things. I don't know if people remember that from his first run in WWE, but nowadays his moveset is so limited, it's ridiculous. And Velasquez, being as young in the business as he is, does not have a lot of moveset either. So I don't feel like the match would come off well. Now, the problem is, the other strain of thought is having Brock Lesnar face Tyson Fury. Now, I'm sure Vince McMahon is sitting in Stamford and he's just dying to do that match, because the main attraction, the box office attraction of a match like that is huge. But the truth is to true wrestling fans, I don't know that we really care to see that. You know, if anybody watched Crown Jewel or whatever you want to call it this time, this most recent Saudi Arabia show, Tyson Fury didn't impress me either. He looked beyond limited in the ring. So unless he's going to do some hardcore training between now and WrestleMania, I don't really need to see that either. I'd really like to see some great in-ring action. And that's something we just simply haven't seen from Brock, Tyson Fury, or Cain Velasquez in quite a while. I actually think that Brock Lesnar does much better in the ring with smaller opponents, and I would love to see AJ Styles elevated to be his WrestleMania opponent. I don't suspect it'll happen. I actually think we may see that in January for the Royal Rumble, but I'd much rather see that at WrestleMania. I think AJ Styles could get a good match out of Brock Lesnar, and I think that's something we don't get to see very often, is Brock really put on a great show, and I think AJ Styles is the perfect guy to try to do that with. The other big thing related to WrestleMania this week is The Fiend. What are they going to do with his character for Mania? And the rumor right now is you're going to see The Fiend, Bray-Wyatt, take on Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Now, here's the thing. Roman Reigns has been away from the championship. At that point, will have been a year and a half since he was Universal Champion. That's plenty of time to be away, especially for somebody of his caliber. But the problem is I feel like the Fiend character is over right now in a way that maybe WWE doesn't necessarily want him to be, but he is. And I feel like if you shove Roman Reigns in our face again, I'm afraid of the fans turning on him again. And let's be real. Roman Reigns has done a lot in the last year to really get by the boos and really embrace this different role that they've given him where he hasn't had to be champion. And I don't feel like we need him to be champion right now. I think Bray Wyatt would be much better suited in a match with, say, The Undertaker. I know that's been done, but it's a different character now, so I wouldn't mind seeing The Undertaker or an Aleister Black or somebody who's got a dark character that you could tap into creatively with the two characters and really do some special things. And I don't know that we're going to get to see that if the match is with Roman Reigns. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. I'm a little bit flabbergasted that on WWE Backstage that they would announce the signing of John Morrison to a multi-year deal. Absolutely ridiculous. What happened to the days, the good old days, when you would tune into a wrestling show and if some new guy had signed somewhere, you were surprised when they ran out and made this triumphant return. At this point, they've now let the cat out of the bag. Like the internet didn't do that a month ago already, but that's not the point. Up until right now, people just speculated that John Morrison or John Hennigan or Johnny Nitro or Johnny Impact or Johnny whatever you want to call him, that he was coming back. We all thought he was coming back. The rumor was he signed to come back. I even reported on this show that he was coming back. But even with all that, it would have been really nice to not know when he's coming back, which I guess we technically still don't, but we know it must be soon because they're not going to sign him and leave him sitting on the bench too long. I suspect he'll be back at the Royal Rumble. That's where he's done so much of his acrobatic nonsense in the past. This would have been better for him to be a surprise entrant in the Rumble and blow everybody's mind. Instead, now you let the cat out of the bag. We're not going to get the same reaction we should have got. We're not going to get the same explosive crowd response that we may have gotten, because I know a lot of people are like, who's John Morrison? Why does he matter so much? But to real diehard wrestling fans, he is actually a really, really talented guy and someone who could really inject some life into the WWE product. A lot of fresh matches that weren't there for him the last time he was through. He's been gone since 2011. So I'm looking forward to it, but I just wish they would have kept it a surprise completely. Not acknowledged anything, just let it go. But they didn't do that. And it's not the only thing they've messed up. This past week, WWE Starrcade. I don't even know where to go with this. Starrcade was just another house show. So I put on ProWrestling.com, I said, build it up or let it die. What I mean by that is, if you want to run Starrcade every year, I'm cool with that. Starrcade, the name Starrcade, the event Starrcade, has a long-standing history that had some of the greatest matches in wrestling history with some of the legends of our business, no matter what era of Starrcade you look at. And now it's just a glorified house show. So here's the deal. Either let it go, let it die, don't do Starrcade ever again, or make it a legit show, make it your Thanksgiving tradition. Starrcade every year, Thanksgiving, build it up, make it a pay-per-view, make it a big deal. But don't do this nonsense. This is not working for me. I have no interest in these little spot house shows where no championships are going to change hands. Nothing important's going to happen. Interviews with Ric Flair that go awry and matches that don't make sense because there's no build up to them. Kevin Owens taking on Bobby Lashley out of nowhere. Like, why? Why are we doing that? That's just horrible, horrible use of such a legendary name. I wanted to comment on the viewership for WWE Backstage this week. So we had, the CM Punk episode had a big pop in the ratings. Then Triple H was on and the ratings kind of tanked. They went down like 121,000. Seth Rollins was on this week and it went up to like 130-some thousand. Now we got CM Punk coming back next week. I'm curious to see what happens if Punk's viewership spikes at, say, 1.5 or 1.7. Because that would be a huge indicator to WWE that they need to get Punk on there more frequently. And if that means ponying up more cash, then do it. But Punk is a draw. Seth Rollins, surprisingly, is a bigger draw than Triple H. I say it's surprising. I guess that shouldn't be a surprise, but Triple H, with all the hoopla over NXT at that time, I felt like would have drawn more, but he didn't. Seth Rollins, I would have thought, with the way people are not real into his character right now, wouldn't have drawn better than Triple H, but he did. And now we're going to get to see CM Punk again next week. So I'll be curious to see how that shakes out. And I wonder sometimes maybe with Stephen Amell, who was supposed to be on the show and then pulled out last minute for some health reason, maybe that took away some of the viewership that maybe Seth Rollins would have gotten. But either way, if they bring Amell back next week or sometime soon, I'm curious to see what that does. And especially with his affiliation with Cody Rhodes and now with Chris Jericho, with the wine company Jericho has come out with, I'm curious to see how Stephen Amell mixes with the WWE audience when he's got so many strong ties to AEW talent. Charlotte and Andrade in the news this week, they both put in trademarks on non-WWE names. So Charlotte put in for a copyright on Ashley Flair. Andrade had his Mexican wrestling name that he trademarked. It kind of makes you feel like, if they decided to leave WWE, they want to make sure they've got their hands on a marketable alternative to their WWE names. And I get that. I completely understand that. It's just a little shocking from two people who look like they're in really good position with WWE right now. Maybe all's not so well in WWE. Maybe it is. Maybe this is just a precautionary thing. Luke Harper went out. We know Luke Harper's been upset for over a year now. He went out and trademarked Brody Lee, which was his independent wrestling name, and he's doing it as well. But his doesn't surprise me. Now, we also found out this week that WWE potentially has an entire list of talents that they're going to release in January of 2020. Luke Harper may be on that list. Matt Hardy is rumored to possibly be on that list. His contract was supposed to go to March. Apparently it's up in February, and he has an out clause to get out earlier, but I don't know if he would do that. I know he really wants to push his broken character back to the show, and I feel like WWE is a little resistant to that. But now he's got his own web series where he's trying to promote the broken character. So we'll have to wait and see that. And then there's other people, Oney Lorcan, who wants his release, and Mike Kanellis wants out, and the Revival want out. You got to wonder how many of these people on this, supposed list are going to get cut in 2020. And then you go ahead and you look at, some of the other craziness going on in WWE. They've signed some things. I mean, they signed Jerry Lawler to a new 3-year deal. That's great. It solidifies one of their announcing teams. Speaking of the announced teams, Mario Ranallo returning to NXT this week, so that's a beautiful thing. So there's all kinds of things going on in WWE, but I feel like sometimes some of these things just get swept under the rug as not being a big deal. And then we get news today of something that truly shouldn't be a big deal, and for some reason is getting pressed. Arissa LeBrock. If you don't know who that is, Kelly LeBrock and Steven Seagal had a child back in the 80s when they, back when they were doing Hard to Kill, the movie. And she is getting a WWE tryout to be a WWE female wrestler. And if you've seen pictures of this young lady online, she looks a lot like Nia Jax, as far as her body type and things like that. Hey, I feel like she's getting that chance because of her name. Now, maybe not. I know she's into mixed martial arts and things like her father. And I know she has done many other things, but just seems weird that she gets to leapfrog all the independent wrestling and everything else and jump right into WWE. But, they've been known to bring people from all different walks of life. It just seems interesting that it's a celebrity's daughter who gets this jump into the WWE tryout ring when there's so many independent talents that would kill for that opportunity, who really have been, earning their stripes on the indie scene, and they have to fight to try to get an opportunity. Just seems a little disingenuous to me. A little bit on AEW. Their ticket sales are slumping in Ohio. Their debut episode for AEW Dynamite in Ohio, they're on sale now, and you could get the best tickets in the house still. And they've been on sale for quite a while now. MJF, Cody Rhodes, all those guys promoting it online, Chris Jericho, trying to move tickets, but they're just not moving as fast as they should. That's a little bit of a concern. Now, I understand, Ryback was on saying how the honeymoon period is over with AEW. I'm not going to go that far, but the ratings did dip a bit. That's something to keep an eye on. But you can't expect them to be as high as they were week one. They've got to put out compelling storylines, but they have been. They've been pretty consistent. So hopefully things solidify for them and they could make, a big turnaround and get their ratings to continue to go up. But to do that, they got to start getting even more creative. It can't just be about, the Chris Jericho and whoever he's hanging out with each week and putting them over week after week after week. We need to see something different. It also can't be constant AEW championship matches with every challenger in the company, because it makes it seem like anybody who's anybody can get a shot whenever they want. And that's not cool either. It takes away from your your overall product. That's just my opinion. Going to touch on two matches that are out there that were talked about this week. Brian Cage versus Kenny Omega for the AAA Mega Championship, which I would love to see a Impact Wrestling superstar and an AEW star going at it at a AAA show. Both men were at Triple Mania, so it's not that those two men couldn't potentially be promoted on the same show because they just were, but it sounds like the two of them would both be interested in the match. I think we'd like to see that match. The only problem with it is for the AAA Mega Championship down in Mexico, and most of us won't get to see it unless you tune into their Twitch channel, which I do, but not everybody does. If you don't, you should check that out. Very good show. But that's a match I'm hoping to see. And the other one, this one really means a lot to me. If you were watching all the feedback from the convention this past weekend with Nick Aldis throwing down the challenge to the great Muta for the NWA World Championship. I know Muta's in his 50s. I know he's well over the hill, but man, I would still love to see the match. I'm a huge Nick Aldis fan. I always love him. I loved him before he gave an interview to our show, but I like him even more now. He's really doing a lot with the NWA, trying to make that championship legit, and he's doing a great job. And challenging the great Muta, just one more example of doing the right thing for business to try to build that brand, which, by the way, if you have not yet, make sure you make the plans to tune in to NWA Into the Fire, their first pay-per-view. This show should be solid. Aldis is going to defend the championship. 2 out of 3 falls against James Storm. You know, you're going to have Eli Drake and on the card. Tons of talent. You get to see the Rock and Roll Express, the new NWA World Tag Team Champions, defend their championships in a rematch against the former champions. It's just, they're putting together a pretty solid card. For a company that has no major television distribution deal, they're doing a really solid job. And I really wish them nothing but the best. I did see Stu Bennett, formerly known as Wade Barrett in WWE, or Bad News Barrett in WWE, is going to be their new commentator, replacing Jim Cornette. He's a solid contribution. I just am frustrated he hasn't gotten in the ring. It's really a shame because he's incredibly talented. We'll have to wait and see if that happens at some point in the future. If they're going to book him the way they have Damian Sandow, that I might not want that. His character's been booked terribly in the NWA, and he looks out of shape. He doesn't look as good as he did in WWE. I wish he would work to fix that, but otherwise, a lot of their programming is fantastic. One last tidbit on this episode, the 2020 Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame inductees have been announced, and there's some great ones on the list. Let's be honest. Jake the Snake Roberts is going to be inducted. You have people like Killer Tim Brooks, a lot of these old school wrestlers. Check out the Pro Wrestling Hall of Fame. There's a link to their page right on frowrestling.com. Check that out because that's a great Hall of Fame. I know it's not WWE Hall of Fame, but it's a legit Hall of Fame, and we really need to generate traffic and foot traffic to that location. It's an incredible event when they do their ceremony because you get to meet all these old veterans, and not just the guys being inducted this year, guys from past years will all be there signing autographs, taking pictures, photo ops, all that, telling stories. It's a really good time. Johnny Mantell, the guy who heads it up, he did an interview with us a couple years ago for it. You know, give him a call, talk to him, ask him about the event, see, tickets are dirt cheap. Go check it out. It's going to be a really good time. That's all the time we have for this episode. Check back with us next episode. We'll run down the latest wrestling news and rumors. Special thanks, as always, goes out to bensound.com and purpleplanet.com. They produce all the music and sound we use in our shows. Today's podcast is sponsored in part by Beazle Games. Bringing a new friend to family game night is easy with sketchy people. Showcase your artistic side in this game from Beazle Games by going to frowrestling.com and clicking the icon in the middle of the screen to pick up your copy today. And to alleyrepair.com. Contact Alley Repair today for servicing of all your classic skee-ball, pinball, and arcade game needs. If you're looking for your next career move, you're considering college, university life, you just need some formal training for your next career decision, go to our sister website at frolifeplanning.com for all your higher education needs. Fro Life Educational Planning is for today, for tomorrow, and for life with Fro Life. I'm Fred Froelich, better known as Mr. Fro. I want to thank you so much for taking the moment with us today. And if you want to get the latest wrestling and sports news and rumors, make sure you hit up tsj101sports.com for their latest articles. Until next time, everybody, take care and have a great night.